Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jim Lathrop. I'm a lead investor with Uptown Network and excited to be so. Today we have CEO of Uptown Network, Jack, with us, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the company. But first, I thought I'd take a few minutes just give you a little bit of an intro to why I thought it was important to invest in Uptown Network and what kind of sparked my interest. I've been in technology for the last 30 years with some of the largest companies in the industry, and have been excited to be a part of the technology world and how it's progressed over the last several years. Obviously, during the pandemic, things have changed, and certainly companies like Uptown Network have sparked my interest about how they're transforming the way that we bring technology to the world. With that, when I think about startups and investments that I make as an individual, I really try to do my due diligence and understand not only does the company have the technology savvy to bring us to transform the way we actually do business today, but I also look at how the investment is going to play out for myself. And sometimes that has to deal with things like preferred stocks and warrants. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, we'll let Jack tell you a little bit about it. But also, what kind of perks do you get when you make this investment, and how is it going to pay off, not just from a financial perspective out of the gate on the initial investment, but potentially some upside that each and every investment I make has. With that, Jack, I'd love to hear just a little bit about Uptown Network and potentially some of the perks that might be involved with financial investment in this organization.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we maybe talk some about the deal first and get into the company. The preferred stock is a really good vehicle because it allows the preferred stockholders to get their money out first. So we have preferred and common stock. So as an example, the employees have common stock, me included. But the preferred shareholders actually will get their investment out first because that's what preferred stock does. And then the other thing that we have are warrants, and what that means is that for every $100 that's invested, the investor gets $50 or 50% of their investment in what's called a warrant. And what that means is that is several years in the future, and this is all documented under our details page. But you actually get to hold on to upside that didn't cost you anything, and make sure that the warrant is actually in the money or worth more than you'll pay for it, guaranteed by the time you cash it in. So you get two real benefits. One is your preferred status, but then also kind of some free upside as part of the investment. I think that's why we have accredited investors that have already put $1 million plus into this exact same terms as we're offering on WeFunder. And then the perks you mentioned, yeah, I won't go through each one, but if you click the little button on where the amount is on the WeFunder site, it'll list it all out. But the one thing you talked about also doing good, one of the perks I really think is neat that we're giving is a 90% off of our product BYOM that people can use. If they own a restaurant, they can use it, or if they have a favorite restaurant that they know that's struggling coming out of the pandemic, they can actually give it to their favorite restaurant and really help the restaurant industry recover. So there's other perks, such as being able to attend our quarterly investor calls, just as we just had one yesterday, and some others. So I go check it out. There's a lot of good ones. But the one I like the most is being able to help fellow restaurants come out of the pandemic.
Well, Jack, everybody loves upside. I know the warrants were certainly something that caught my attention. Upside is obviously a fantastic way to look at it. And I think the perks, when there's so much more, when I know you're going to tell us a little bit about Uptown Network next, but when you look at the perks that are available, sustainability is a huge thing in today's market, and just the number of pieces of paper that are saved and in menus alone being distributed, it's got to be one of the things that's certainly caught my attention and will catch others' attention as we proceed. Tell us a little bit about how that works. What is Uptown Network? What technology do you have, and a little bit about the company, where you are.
Sure, yeah. So our product's called BYOM, or Bring Your Own Menu. And what's really great at a high level, it takes menus for restaurants and then it turns them from a cost center into a profit center. And so that's very important, especially right now for restaurants wanting to get their P&L kind of back in kind of positive ground. And it does that by allowing them to take their menu and digitize it either on a smartphone, Android or iPhone, or on a tablet. And also allows them to print if guests want the printed menus. But in there, there's over 100,000 tasting notes, so things like wines, microbrews, cognacs. So it's really easy for them to build an interactive experience, very quickly. Usually in under an hour, they can be up and running. And then as part of that, we have an add-on called Uptown Gifts that can take any menu item and turn it into a virtual gift card in augmented reality, and that gives them a whole nother revenue stream that they can get. And as you mentioned, the sustainability. What's neat is sustainability comes out of the box with BYOM. So does ADA compliance. But for sustainability, we've saved over 40 million throwaway paper menus so far. And it's funny, when we first went live on WeFunder a couple months ago, I don't know what that number was. It was like 6 million or something. So it's really grown, and we've really, feel good about, keeping all that paper out of the landfills. And we're hoping by 2023 to have cut 1 billion pieces of paper out of landfills that restaurants normally would have sent into the landfills.
That's an enormous effort, and certainly something that's on top of everybody's mind. You mentioned quite a few products there. Is this something that could be used potentially but beyond restaurants?
It can. In fact, we're just starting to see the beginning of that. We did a contactless check-in packet at the Waldorf Astoria in Orlando that's getting really good traction. Over 5,000 sessions a month right now. So instead of checking in and getting the resort map on paper and all of those kind of things, it's all done through your phone. And so about 180 people per day are using that. And again, keeping tons of paper out of the landfills. But I think more than that, it's just really convenient. You think about, you're at the pool and then you say, hey, I want to go here. Oh, well, I left the resort map up in the room. I don't want to go, now it's right on your phone. You can see it, and it's much more convenient. And also we have some spas that are using it for their spa menu. So I think we are going to see BYOM going beyond restaurants.
Well, certainly one of the things that caught my attention, when I was making the investment is there's a ton of QR codes around. I see them on just about every restaurant. And certainly my concern is probably the same as many of the people that are watching today. What's different about Uptown Network? Everybody seems to have a QR code. What makes Uptown Network different?
No, you're right. In fact, I was driving down the road the other day, and a plumbing truck drove by me with a big QR code, on the side of the van. So they are everywhere. I think the important thing to know about QR codes, it's really just a link that brings you somewhere. And what a lot of the QR codes are doing in restaurants right now is they're bringing you to a PDF file of their menu, which is not interactive. It's not ADA compliant. It's really cumbersome. Anyone who's used those PDFs, it's a real drag to kind of, have to, swipe that all around your phone trying to figure out what you're going to order. What's neat with BYOM, it's fully interactive. And in fact, we have examples of that on the WeFunder site. So people can actually put it on their own phone, take a look at it and see the difference. But it's got pictures of the cocktails or the food. It's got tasting notes for wine or cognacs or microbrews. So it's a much more interactive experience. But also there's a shareability component within it that really helps restaurants. We've had our menu shared in over 70 countries in all 50 states. And so it really helps people share the menus with their friends, and it really drives business for the restaurants. We had one restaurant tell us that the other benefit of it is that since people can kind of look at this on their phone before they come, they feel that many people arrive at the restaurant knowing what they're going to order, and they feel that speeds table turns and helps their revenue in the restaurant.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, 90% off as an investor to help an organization get off the ground using this technology, allowing a QR code to take them to something that's much more powerful than we've seen before. You're talking about now how you're really this becomes a driver of business, a driver of outcomes, essentially helping the restaurants become more successful and increase their revenues while using a technology that's familiar with most people in their handheld devices today, whether it's a phone or a tablet. And when I think about this compared to other technologies, what I'm really seeing is you're not just taking technology and reskinning something, you're actually taking technology and allowing the content to become visible and building a product with imagination that helps restaurants and consumers both leverage this technology in a much greater fashion. Does that sound right?
That sounds exactly right. Yeah, and I think that's why it's been so impactful. With over 6 million people have already used BYOM. And when restaurants put this in, they see that the customers love it. We've had a lot of comments on social media of customers saying how much they liked it and how, it was a much better experience than a PDF on a phone or just going to a website. I mean, people, when they go to eat, they don't want to look at an e-commerce website or, a PDF. They want to have an experience. And one of the things that has happened in the pandemic is restaurants have gotten too transactional. And I think the guests are really wanting to get that romance and that experience feeling back when they go out to eat. And BYOM is a key part of helping them do that.
Well, Jack, one of the things that I commonly think about it myself, as I said, I'm in technology today and continue to be in this industry. The pandemic certainly hit us all, in different angles. Some have had to accelerate their growth. Some have had to rethink about their business. Some have had to reprioritize. And I know we're on an investor call here, so we probably want to keep things a little bit private. But maybe you could share with folks kind of the direction that we've been going, where we're heading, the results for maybe Q2 and maybe how we're looking for Q3, if you could.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as you know, Jim, we serve a lot of big brands, so we are under a lot of confidentiality agreements with that. But what I can tell you is both quarters, or Q2 was a great quarter. Everything went really well. We added new customers. We had a couple new Capital Grille locations come on, so it's neat to see the Capital Grille expanding. And we also added our first Four Seasons location, and so that hopefully is kind of a mark of things to come. That there's a lot of Four Seasons across the world, and it's nice to have our first referenceable account in Denver. And then Q3 has been a real surprise. July has been very strong. So what we're still seeing in the industry is restaurants are having a really hard time hiring people. There's been a lot of turnover. The turnover, in some strange way, has helped us because we have people who have used our product that are going to different new locations, and they're bringing our product in. That happened with one of the accounts locally here. Deep Lagoon is the name, but we had a person from Capital Grille move to there and put us in 3 restaurants there. So I really think as the pandemic winds down, we're really going to see a big shot in the arm. We're already starting to see it because there's pent up demand, and I think as restaurants recover, they all now understand the need for technology. I know you do a lot of work in the manufacturing sector, and you were saying the same thing. Is the people who were prepared from a technology standpoint did disproportionately better than the ones that were not prepared. And I think restaurants get that now, and so I think it's going to really accelerate our growth going forward, especially as things kind of get a little back to normal and start to recover.
I'd like to take a step back if I could. We've been talking a lot, I think, about the restaurant side of it, the content, how you are able to choose different items on a menu. But I think one of the other products you talked about at the very beginning, which we haven't touched on too much, is really around the gifting side of things and maybe how that's different from other organizations. Could you talk a little more about how that might differentiate Uptown Network?
Yeah, we're excited about Uptown Gifts and the virtual gifting. And we actually think it's going to be a watershed type product. If you think about physical gift cards, I mean, it's really, they're kind of a legacy physical thing. And they're existing in an ever increasing digital age, and so these plastic gift cards really don't have a place much more in terms of where the whole economy is and where society is. So what we have is the ability to take anything that's on a menu. So let's say that you're having a really good steak at a restaurant, and then you say, hey, this is like one of the best steaks I've ever had. I have a buddy that really likes steak. You can literally, right from BYOM on your phone, you can gift your friend that steak, and then you can do a video message. And what's cool is it sends it to them in augmented reality. So when they get it, they'll say they're in their kitchen. You choose the virtual gift wrap that you wanted to send. He gets your video message. He sees the steak. So you get an augmented reality experience plus the gift. And when he comes in the restaurant, he gets a free steak that you had bought him. And what's cool about that is if he doesn't like steak, he can switch that same dollar amount for salmon. But the other thing that it really does is it helps the restaurant a lot, because it gets people to get introduced to the restaurant that maybe didn't know about the restaurant before. And it also now starts a conversation between you and your friend. And that creates a lot of goodwill towards that restaurant and that feeling. And so it really is a product that we think is going to be very, very successful. We're in 10 restaurants now, getting ready to go live. And we really think we want to be you talked about Q2, Q3. We want to also be in good shape Q4 for gifting for the holiday season. And so we think it's going to be a very big product for us. And also you asked about kind of investor and some numbers, but we can actually share that in terms of the revenue split. Uptown Network gets 15% and the restaurant gets 85%. And it's all done, through AWS and everything else. So when someone buys a gift, the restaurant actually gets that 85% right away, whether it's redeemed or not. And we get the 15%. But what's cool about that is these plastic gift cards that are in grocery stores, many of those people are paying 20% commission to the firm that puts them in the grocery store. And, my wife and I had a restaurant for a while, and when we would see $100 gift card come in, normally the bill at that table was about $102, so it was rarely much more than the gift card was. But what's cool about Uptown Gifts is when you send that steak, your friend probably brings someone or more people with them to the restaurant. They get an entree, maybe they get something to drink, a dessert. So that 15% is really effectively like a 3% fee the restaurant's paying. So Uptown Gifts truly helps these restaurants create a new revenue stream, and it really does it with an economic approach that makes sense to the restaurants, because margins in restaurants can be as low as 5, 6, 7%. So it's tough to give away 20%, and that's one of the big things with these delivery drivers that the restaurants are having trouble with now. They feel forced into it. But Uptown Gifts is truly a way that makes economic sense for a restaurant to have a whole new revenue stream.
And I think you keyed in on something there. Having money in your pocket now versus later is obviously a big benefit to these organizations that are all coming back from the pandemic. But
Yeah,
you did
exactly.
key in on 2 key words there. I think you keyed in on steak and free, and I'll take one.
That's good.
With that, this is a new way of gifting, a new way of getting things out to the marketplace. Whether you're gifting to a friend, to a colleague, to an organization, or to employees. Can this also be used for loyalty, and how would that work? What does that look like with Uptown Network?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent. Yeah, loyalty, guest recovery. What we're finding, we're actually in a lot of discussions with customers right now about building gifting into their loyalty program. And you think about the fast food chains are already kind of doing that with, like, let's say McDonald's. You order a certain number of McDonald's, they give you a free ice cream cone, or that's really a gift, is what they're doing. And so this is something that for higher end restaurants can really be something really interesting. And also we've talked with some hotels that if they have an elite member that's checking in, they may want to send them a free virtual augmented reality appetizer to try to keep them on property, and also reward them for being an elite member of their hotel organization. The other thing that we've had a lot of discussions is guest recovery. Now, as good as every restaurant is, every restaurant makes mistakes. And so, how do you recover from that and not lose that customer? And gifting is a really great way to do that, because you can now give them a gift, say, hey, we're going to make this right. And we're going to make sure when you come back, you're going to have a great experience. And so it's a much more personal way to try to recover that guest than just giving them some sort of a paper gift card, or talk to Bob when you come in next time kind of thing. So it's definitely a really good way to do loyalty and guest recovery.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better way when you see a steak sitting on a table steaming with those nice hash marks in it. Certainly much more attractive than the turnstile plastic cards that we see today. So something I look forward to as well.
I'm learning here, Jim, that you like steak more than I knew you did.
Yeah, I certainly do. Um, when we think about post COVID coming out of this pandemic, like what is it? What do you think the restaurant strategy looks like?
Yeah, we've done a lot of discussion and thought on this. I think we've got a pretty good picture. What we believe is going to happen is one is the phones aren't going to go away. The 6 million people that have used like BYOM on phones, that's going to continue and that's going to continue to grow. But there's a certain group of people that I think is sick of looking at their phone, no matter how beautiful it is on their phone, and they want a larger form factor, like in a tablet. And so we believe restaurants are going to give there's not going to be a one size fits all. Restaurants are going to give their guests a choice between looking at the menu on their phone or having a larger tablet that's maybe easier to read for older guests, or paper. Some people might still want paper, but again, the goal is always to minimize the amount of waste that we're creating. I think you and I were at a restaurant a few months ago, and we got those menus, and they were covered with all kinds of stuff, and so I think there's still be some laggards out there, but I mean, I think that's not a great experience when someone hands you a menu that's got all this goop on it and everything else. So I think we see, that part of the industry really going away over time.
Jack, I only saw that dinner as an opportunity. And given that I'm an investor in this organization, I was able to take that perk you mentioned and able to get that restaurant up and going and using the new content. So next time we see each other and get to that restaurant, I think you'll see a quite a different experience.
Awesome.
One of the things that I like to kind of wrap with a little bit here is we started with the financials, and I'd like to come back to that if we could for a moment. Everybody who's watching this is looking at this as an investment of their own dollars. What are you planning to do as Uptown Network with these dollars, and how do you plan to use them?
Sure. Yeah. Exit strategies is one thing that obviously, whenever you take an investment, you better have a good feel for what the options are for helping repay that money and return that money with a good return. And so I had a good mentor early in my career, and he always told me, you want to build a company to be a large independent company. You don't want to build a company to sell it. However, it could turn out that that as the company grows, the best option is to sell it. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking. I've had 3 startups. We took one public. We sold one to IBM. We sold one to Computer Associates. So it's hard to take a company public, but that's always what you're trying to do. But if it turned out that acquisition was the right way to go, what's nice is with our product, there's a ton of options there that people who would be interested in Uptown Network. The larger POS companies come to mind. This would be a nice extension of the POS, kind of the POS technology to get to guest facing, and also the gifting to actually add on to that, so that we've had a lot of conversations of integrating gifting with POS systems with different customers. So all of those companies, and there's several multi-billion-dollar POS companies that are out there right now that would have an interest. There's also anyone doing gift cards or financial processing with the Uptown Gifts would be a category of companies that would be, I think, very interested in this because they could kind of drive the transactions through their network, and I think that would be very attractive to them. So we have several different options. Even companies that have large customer bases in restaurants, like reservation companies. There's several multi-billion reservation companies out there, but I could see them saying, okay, well, we could actually take our 40,000 restaurants and offer Uptown Gifts, or now it'd be called something else. It'd be their gifts, through their channel. So we think there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of possibilities that we could really be a strategic acquisition for one of these larger companies.
That's fantastic. Hopefully that gives our viewers here an opportunity to hear a little bit about the company. There is a Q&A at the right here. If anyone wants to ask a question, you could feel free to do so. Otherwise, Jack, certainly enjoyed the conversation today. I think you've, number one, given our viewers an opportunity to understand a little bit about why to invest, what the perks are, with Uptown Network. You've talked a little bit about the product and products that you're actually bringing to market, along with the menu structure, the content, the upselling that you're providing to these restaurants, as well as the better consumer experience. Talked a little bit about sustainability and how the organization's helping the environment. And I think finally you've wrapped with, why invest in us and what the strategy is for the organization. So hopefully this gives our viewers a little bit of a insight to Uptown Network and an opportunity to get in on something that will be exciting as well.
Okay, well, great. Jim, thanks for taking the time to ask the questions. And I look forward to buying you a steak dinner here at some point. And so I noticed in the comment section somebody typed, "Yes, less waste and no goofy menus, LOL." And so I'm with that person. So let's try to make it happen as a community here on Leaf Hunter.
Let's do it. Thanks, Jack.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Take care.
Bye-bye.